Okay, I'm going to go ahead and call our study session for December 11th to order. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Director Arthur Perry.
Here.
Assistant Secretary Robert Uten. Secretary Arlene Schaefer.
Here.
Vice President James Merriman.
Present.
President Michael Schaefer.
Here. Okay, public comments. Anyone from the public wishing to speak on items within our jurisdiction not on the agenda is welcome to do so now. See no one jump forward. We'll go to item number 1, the code enforcement report. Scott?
Thank you, Mr. President. Ed Roberts will be giving this report.
Good morning, President Schaefer and members of the Costa Mesa Sanitary District Board. Ed Roberts, your District Code Enforcement Officer. I'll be making the presentation of the November 2018 Code Enforcement Officer Report. Ladies and gentlemen, for the benefit of the board, I did put together a presentation packet for your review. In the month of November, I did a series of 9 proactive scavenging investigations. These are folks that were contacted, identified, and just made to put their whatever recyclable material was found back into a neighboring cart. None of these folks were repeat offenders. They were all primary contacts, and they've been logged down in my rolling log as to who they are. None of the contacts were of any note. Fairly cooperative folks. End result was they put the material back in our CMSD carts and were sent on their way. Brief narrative was included under each with a summary of the contact and a map denoting the location of the contact. Should any of you have any questions? Yes, ma'am.
I had a comment. In College Park,
Yes, ma'am.
they feel that people are forgetting, the trash people are forgetting to, when they lift up an automatic and bring it down, the lid isn't closed.
The
there's-
CR&R, the mechanical process leaves the lid open?
Yeah.
Okay.
So you might check that to be sure.
I see a head nodding, so last week was especially bad because of the weather. I'm sure you guys got some calls, but I mean, there were carts all over the place. Yeah.
True.
I'll speak with the route manager.
Yeah.
He's in the College Park neighborhood.
Hey, Ed, I had a question.
Sure, sir.
Did you notice a downturn? Because the weather obviously impacts some of these folks. I mean, it's not as active as it is in the...
You know what, sir? Actually, to the contrary. Based on my experience, I found that I have more contacts in the early morning hours and in inclement weather because there's less pedestrian traffic and less scrutiny
Really?
on the streets. Most of the folks operate under the guise of darkness. You know, they do it early morning hours, to avoid contacts with probably the homeowner or people interested. It's not. It doesn't rise to the level of criminal behavior, but folks operate under the guise of darkness, so that way they can pretty much operate with impunity and not get contacted by law enforcement or homeowners. As you can see for this month, Gina asked me to chart my activity during the course of the year for the year-end report, so I was just looking at the trend. We had 9 this month, as I'm reporting, and we've actually had an uptick. We were floating around 4 and 5 that were caught. As a matter of fact, I was reporting to Scott yesterday. I took a civilian ride-along out into the field with me yesterday, and we had 2 contacts on the west side. So I would say that probably because of the holiday season, the amount of parties that are going to be taking place, family coming in, and probably the uptick in recyclable material that's being dumped into our carts during the holiday season, we're probably going to see an upward trend of this stuff.
You know this stuff, don't you?
I live it every day, sir.
The other question I had is, are we, and Scott, maybe you chime in on this too, are we allowed, or are you allowed to pull over or, I see guys in my neighborhood, especially on Wednesday night, because our pickup day is Thursday, that drive around with trucks and they're picking up stuff. I mean, the truck's full of, are we allowed to pull those, are you allowed to pull those people over if you see them?
Scavenger?
Are they scavengers, sir?
Yeah.
No. I don't have adequate emergency lighting equipment. I don't believe my job title here would allow a detention of that sort. just for the reference, and I received some guidance earlier in my career here, any municipal code, any operational code, ultimately, by state law, is prosecutable as a misdemeanor. So that's the teeth behind any of these ordinances. For example, like on the city side, if there was deteriorated paint on the fascia and that homeowner was noticed and they just dug their toes into the ground or their heels into the ground and said, no way, no how, I'm not going to do this, ultimately the ramification would be is like you're going to be taken to court and made to do that by a judge if the magistrate agrees with you. So, detaining people, vehicular traffic stops for scavenging would be dangerous and kind of out of scope of duty. And it's, if you just follow the car long enough, I'm sure you'll contact them out in the field. And
That was my thought. I don't want us to be, law enforcement. I don't want lights on the car. I mean, but there seems to be.
There's alternate enforcement methods. At that point, if we could document like the license plate, that we could do follow up with the police department as far as that. As far as identifying who the registered owner of the vehicle is, and maybe at that point, I've never dealt with that. I remember one time in Mr. Fairman's neighborhood, I made contact with, for lack of a better term, was the mothership. It was it was a big scavenging operation that was sending folks into our town, collecting the recyclable material and taking it back into Santa Ana to do the recycling over there. That was resolved by just waiting for the car to come to stop. Once the guy exited the car, you can swoop on in and talk to him. But there's a lot of legalities involved. These are most of the contexts that I try to do are in what's called a consensual encounter. It's very non-detentional. You don't stop the person, sit them down on the curb or anything like that. It's just a conversation. If the person decides to escalate the contact at that point, I just back away and walk away from them, as opposed to escalating the situation and turning it into a legal fiasco. But if that's a concern, if you're aware of that, I have the flexibility to come in. Scott's allowed me to modify my schedule as need be to address specific concerns. I could come in evening hours if I had to.
I think the biggest concern I had, and I know it was even worse when we had the large item, scheduled large item, everybody did it. These guys that are scavenging like that are not the tidiest of people. I mean, they grab the stuff they want, and everything else just kind of scatters around. And that, to me, that's a hazard with people walking around it and stuff. And it's not a big concern now. I've noticed, and it's the same guys. I know they're trucks that are driving through my neighborhood, and I just wondered.
I got you, sir. Well, those are all things, and keep in mind at the end of the day, if it were to really be a problem, those are all issues that are addressable through the police department as well. Because there are ordinances and there are crimes, that can address that. So,
I don't think just your neighborhood.
Could be.
I got a question. On Orange Avenue, the suspect took off and you try to find him?
pardon me, sir?
On Orange Avenue, you said that the male ran from the location to discarded a bag. Remember that?
That happens more often than not, sir.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Because you never reported that before, I don't think.
Well, sir, the issue is I'm not going to go in for pursuit over the CMSD trash card issue.
Right.
Just it's a safety problem, and most folks he actually left the bicycle behind too.
Oh, really?
So it's kind of strange because all you want to do is I just want to talk to you, man. I just want to tell you that don't be taking recyclable material from our carts. But a lot of folks don't really know who I am, and fortunately, my uniform is very separate from the police. I don't carry any gear on me or flashlight or anything. So I think most people have a pretty good clue that I'm not a policeman. And the car is marked, so we do it properly. I think people can clearly see that we are or I'm a government official, but I don't think they feel challenged or threatened by my appearance because I don't have any gear on or anything like that. But a lot of these folks, as I said earlier to President Schaefer, they try to avoid any kind of contact with authority or government just because what comes with it. They don't understand our procedure and our process. And I think sometimes they just rather avoid contact altogether. And that invariably, within the course of a day, I'll come scooting down an alley. Somebody ducks into an apartment building. We just let it go. There's not a whole lot I can do with that.
Well, we said alleyway. Obviously, I have an alleyway adjacent to my office around between Royal Palm and Harbor. And some of them have carts, and some of them have bins. I mean, it's up to the individual. I mean, I see people going down, one guy in particular, elderly gentleman, he goes down and he opens our carts at the residences that have those, and then he opens the gates and he opens the bins. We don't have any jurisdiction over them going through the bins, do we?
No, that's addressed through the city of Costa Mesa. They're the ones that regulate the commercial storage bins. However, just by virtue of their activity, if you sit long enough, I don't think they discriminate. I think they'll go from a bin
Oh, they do.
into a cart eventually.
They do.
So yeah,
Like
Just
a
don't-
so like a buffet of trash cans that they have going
lack
down
of a
that
better term, sir.
alleyway.
Yeah, it just happens. That area, Pepper Tree, as you can see, I discovered Pepper Tree Lane, halfway into my career here, and it's just been a hotbed of stuff. There's always, without fail, 2 or 3 for the month that I can report to you on Pepper Tree. It's a busy area, sir. And I think just by continued presence in the area, we do what we can, and we'll mitigate whatever we can. And sometimes it may be a finger in the dike, but at the end of the day, we accomplish something out there in the street.
That's what it is,
Yes, sir. Any other questions regarding scavenging?
I've had reports of this wild woman chasing this dog down the street on Bucknell Street.
Sir.
Much far.
Gotcha.
I can't imagine who would
Going through trash cans?
knocking over trash cans.
I see.
I didn't want to say anything in public, but I couldn't resist.
Yes, sir. I'll keep an eye out for that person.
My next question is,
Yes, sir.
on Pepper Tree, there was 2 males that you approached.
Yes, sir.
And is that a problem at all? Are you apprehensive about approaching 2 guys, or?
No, sir. Actually, they were isolated. Most of the folks operate in conjunction. It'll be couples a lot of the time, like a male and a female. For purposes of my contact, I can only I had my civilian rider yesterday, for example, and he wanted me to go talk to everybody. I'm like, I had to explain. I have to have a legal reason to contact somebody. Suspicion isn't enough. In a perfect world, I could go ahead and accuse everybody of scavenging and get them. I lie in wait, for lack of a better term. I park my vehicle in a nondescript location and I surveil the alleyway. And if I see somebody walking with a pick, pole, and a trash bag, it's pretty much a good indicator that it's a scavenger. And sometimes they see me and they walk right past all the trash cans. No contact at that point.
Can you talk about the civilian rider? How often do you have a civilian rider with you?
That's actually the second time I've had a civilian rider with me in the course of I think I've been here about 4 years. And
Does that come through Scott?
Or they go through Ed, and he tells me, and
Okay.
we have them sign a waiver form, and they say, that's fine.
Okay, sounds good.
Yeah. But no, not really. You just gauge the context or to answer your question. If it's a 6'5", 300-pound guy, I'd probably be a little bit more apprehensive if I do it from my car. But most of the time, if you just come in a very calm, respectful manner, most folks will respond to it nicely. If you come off aggressively, which I try not to, then you dictate where it goes. So nothing good comes out of being aggressive or jerk with people. So it works out pretty good.
Sounds good.
Overall, I think what we do is really, really good.
I agree.
Your attitude, you have, and don't take this the wrong way, but you have the Andy Griffith style of and I think that works well in our community, and I think what you do and the effort that everybody puts towards the scavenging thing, I think it's pretty healthy. I mean, I don't want you getting into an altercation, and I don't want you chasing some guy down the street for a 10-cent Coke or a recycling. So I don't know about the rest of you guys, but I'm really happy with what we do in this, and I think your presence makes a big difference.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate it. I'm sorry, I don't mean to monopolize the meeting. I'll just wrap my stuff. One of the things that I tried to explain, and I was telling Scott about this, the civilian rider wanted to acquaint himself with the operations of CMSD, what it is we do out there for enforcement. And I had a really good, long, hard talk explaining to him that we understand there's 2 concepts in law. There's letter of the law, there's the spirit of the law. Letter of the law is black and white, and spirit of the law is kind of that gray area. And it's a legal concept. And I told him, I'm like, sir, I understand. If I wanted to go out there and lay siege to Costa Mesa, there'd be thousands and thousands of trash can violations that would be out there. but we'd succeed in alienating our population. You know, we have to prioritize and we have to address true violations of our operational code that are either egregious or they're serious, that affect the quality of life and appearance of the neighborhood. So at the end of the ride along, I think he kind of came to the realization that, you know, yes, you know, like if you kind of crook your head to the right and, you know, you can see a trash can at the end of the side of their house, you know, letter law, that's a violation. Is it truly a violation? Is it the spirit of the law and the ordinance and what directives you want? You know, I'll leave that up to you folks to direct me. But from everything I've gathered from my management staff and from the board of directors, citizen-friendly approach, resident-friendly approach, and, you know, try to, I think, communicate effectively with our population we serve, and hopefully, you know, like we accomplish the goal without, you know, upsetting our population base and providing a service. And I'm sorry, and one last thing. I had 111 trash can violations that were addressed through the notice of violation process. So nothing to report of note on that either.
Last thing, Scott,
sir.
should he speak at the CAC sometime as a presenter?
That's a good idea.
You know what I mean? Because I think that would be good knowledge for those people. You know what I mean?
That'd be excellent.
You know?
Take any one of these evenings. I think that'd be,
Yeah.
if you don't mind,
It'd be my pleasure. Yeah,
that'd be
sure.
that's a great idea.
You know what I mean? I think it'd be real beneficial for us.
Okay, so we're gonna call Dan Abrams and see if we can get you on live PD.
Don't do that.
Talk to the chief and-
I was on Placas once. So, are there any questions of the board for me?
No,
Thank you.
I'm
Take
glad
it
he
up.
didn't, I'm glad he didn't call you Barney.
I thought about it. I thought about it.
Thanks so much. You have a great one.
You'll have to explain to the younger
Yeah,
members
they
of
don't
staff
even know what
who
we're
Andy
talking about.
Griffith, what that's all about. They had a big star that was in Andy Griffith. His name was Ron Howard. I don't know if you've ever heard of Ron Howard before. All right, let's go on to the solid waste diversion report, Scott.
Thank you, Mr. President. Items 2 and 3 are just for your information, and we're available to answer any questions.
Any questions on solid waste or organics?
Does that include OCC, the 60? So we're down a little bit then, huh?
Yeah.
Okay. 'Cause last month, I think we had like 62 or so.
There was a little more landfill tonnage this month, which brought the number down.
Okay.
Okay, any other questions on item 2 or 3? Let's go to item 4 on Rosenberg's Rules of Order.
Thank you, Mr. President. As you know, the board uses the parliamentary procedures called the Robert Rules of Orders, which is nearly 150 years old. There is our revised procedures done by Mr. Dave Rosenberg, who's a former judge and elected official, who basically took procedures that, again, like I said, almost 150 years old, consist of 700 pages, and he condensed it down to 7 pages. It seems to be widely accepted by city councils, special districts, and counties, and district council. This believes that this would be a good idea for us to adopt the Rosenberg Rule of Order. So today is just to get your comments, questions. If you agree, then we'll bring this back on December 20th. The Citizens Advisory Committee will discuss and review the ordinance tomorrow and have their comments and recommendations. Otherwise, if you want us to continue using Robert Rules of Order, you just tell us and we won't bring it back on the 20th.
What is the main difference between Robert's Rules of Order and this?
I thought you were going to ask me that. You know, that's a good question. I think I'd rather I'll let district council answer that question on the 20th if that's okay.
Okay.
'Cause this was his recommendation, and honestly, I didn't really
I
look at
taught
the
the
difference.
Robert's Rules of Order for like 40 years.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
You know
right.
what I mean?
Yeah, it's like I said, it's been around for almost 150 years. I didn't realize how old it was, but yeah, it's a good question to ask for district council.
Does Alan like the change?
Yes, yeah, it was his recommendation. It was changed. Yes.
So this is his recommendation.
So it'll be under attorney's reports when you bring it, if you want to bring it back on the 20th.
And I looked it over, and essentially the life of it really boils down to public comment and the life of a motion. I mean, and I didn't see anything major. I'm not sure I even saw anything that changed other than it's a little more simple. In Rosenberg, he just, you know, he bullet points it instead of giving you the long philosophical why you do it. So, and Alan, I talked to Alan a little bit, and he thinks it's a good idea. I didn't realize we had to have an ordinance specifying which, I mean, really?
Do we have an ordinance now for Robert's Rules of Order?
It's in our code, yes, it's in our, so that means the board adopted an ordinance, yes, that's correct.
Yeah, if he can explain that, maybe let him know. Was he going to be here on the board meeting?
Yes, I'm taking notes right now and pass it on to him.
Okay. I'd say if he gives a good explanation, I'd go for it.
Any other questions on the item? And we'll carry it to the board meeting then, Scott?
And again, it'll go to the CAC tomorrow, so you'll get their comments and recommendation as well.
You're going to have to explain it to them.
I'm going to do my, yes, I asked the question.
I think you got off easy with us.
Hey,
Tomorrow night.
it's good. It gives me a heads up. It's probably a good question they'll ask too. Yeah, it's a good question.
Okay. Then let's go to the reenacting item 5, purchasing provisions of the operations.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. So our purchasing ordinance complies with the Uniform Public Construction Cost Accounting Act. And the act allows public agencies to conduct informal bids with certain dollar amounts. Currently, our informal bids is between $30,000 to $125,000. So basically, we go out and solicit bids. The big difference is that we don't have to advertise in the newspaper. We just have to put together some specs, notify a few, at least 3 vendors, and try to get bids. And if it's between, if it's 125,000 or less, then the general manager has authority to sign. The state legislature has revised those limits a few years ago. It was $45,000 to $175,000. We did not, the staff did not bring that back to the board for consideration, and so we're still at the $30,000 to $125,000. Just more recently, the legislature revised procedures again and increased the limits from $60,000 to $200,000. So if the board adopts the ordinance, then that would be the new threshold. So we would go anything under $200,000, the general manager would be authorized to sign. Anything over $200,000, we bring it to the board. If you also approve these changes to ALSI, that changed a lot of other sections in our purchasing ordinance, which you'll see in the attachments. They're strike-throughs of all the changes that were made. These were reviewed and approved by district council. So staff is seeking just directions today. If you agree with the changes, we will bring it back for December 20th for adoption. The CEC will be reviewing this as well tomorrow, and they'll have their recommendation for you on the 20th, if so be you want us to bring it back. So you have a couple of options today. Again, this is direct us to bring the changes back to the 20th. You can also direct staff to bring it back with the lesser amounts. Maybe you want to go back to the first change they had, the $45,000 to $175,000. That's fine too. Or you just leave it as the way it is. So those are your options.
Good, Jim.
Would it be prudent for us to bounce it off our committee first?
Yeah, they're going to review it tomorrow.
Is that what you were saying?
Yes, they're reviewing it tomorrow. Yes,
I agree with that.
it's on their agenda tomorrow. Yes.
Empower them a little bit on
Yep.
this.
Yep, definitely.
What's your feeling on the change?
Well, if it does, if you go to 200,000, it will expedite our projects a lot faster, like our public works projects. Now that means we don't have to come back to the board, wait for agendized. I can approve it, so we could get projects up and running faster. That's one's benefit.
And the state's approved this?
Yes, this is state. Those limits are approved by the state. Yes.
I'd say we bring it back to the board meeting for
If-
finalization.
If it is going back to the committee tomorrow, I think that you should say just what you said, that it was prudent that it would actually happen
Yes.
faster.
I think we mentioned that in our staff report too. So that's one of the
It's
benefits.
important for people
Yes.
to understand that.
Okay.
Trying to think the last few years, how many projects are really exceed 200,000, or how many things really exceed 200,000? I know pump stations, buying a truck and that stuff, but
We've had some large projects. I mean, look at the project we discussed recently, the President Pump Station.
yeah.
Right.
What I'm
we have
getting at is,
Solar panels.
yeah, between the old threshold and the new threshold,
I don't know the difference, how many more projects or less projects will be coming. I don't know. It come and goes. Like you have, we just did bid opening for Canyon Pump Station. You know, that's over $500,000. So that's coming to you for your approval. The solar project, for example, if it was approved on this new limits, it wouldn't have come to you. I would have approved it because it was $145,000. So I would have signed that contract without the board's approval. I don't let the board know, but
I think
for the
what I
board,
was looking for is how many more projects.
I don't know.
Do you think it would?
can't
What
tell you.
about the Vector control truck?
The fact is, that's over. That would come back to you because that's over 200,000. Yeah, yeah. Yep.
Okay.
So you may want to find out how many you might have approved if you had the $200,000 limit, just for their reference and ours. That's what Mike was getting at, I think, too.
That's exactly it. But I like the idea of being able to get into projects quicker. I mean,
Yeah.
if you think about bringing it to us, that's at least a 30-day delay, if not more. So.
Right. Exactly. Okay, I have that question. Sure, yeah, I'll bring that back.
Good. All right. Any other questions on that item? Item 6.
Thank you, Mr. President. So this was an item the board directed staff to bring back, and that was to look at revising Chapter 3.01 of the district's operations code pertaining to board of directors. Specifically, I believe the board has mentioned the idea of removing the assistant secretary as an officer, and the board also wanted to discuss the terms of the officers. I think there was some confusion on what those terms were. I think someone thought it might have been 2, someone might have thought 4. The code does say, according to section 3.01.020B, officers, including president and secretary, should be selected after each regular election, so every 2 years. I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, that there was a little bit of a change these last 2 years because of what was going on with Minnesota Water. The board wanted President Schaefer to continue to be president for another 2 years, and then after that, then we'll make a decision. So, what staff is seeking direction? What do you want to do? And we'll bring those revisions to you for your approval.
You said the secretary, you meant the assistant secretary, remove that position.
The assistant secretary, yes, that was the one.
You said secretary, I think.
Yes, the second secretary is the one that I believe the board was considering removing from the ordinance.
Yes. So is that written in our ordinance now?
It is.
Okay, what I wanted to say was, in the past, we have always just done a position, you just carry through to whatever, president, vice president, so forth, and it's been tradition. And more or less, it's been a policy that way too, for 2 years. 2 years because mainly the first year you're just kind of getting your feet wet and trying to understand what you're doing and the way we do things. The second year, you feel more comfortable at it. But when I've been looking at the newspaper, all the different swearing in that has occurred, everybody does the succession.
Not really. The city of Costa Mesa does not, because they changed their mayor pro tem.
They've done that. They changed
And
the
they
mayor.
do it every year.
Okay, forget that.
But I'm just saying that
Okay.
that's up to the board to make that decision.
But I really think
And
that-
it's not written in our policy.
No, but I really feel that in every case, everyone sitting up here can chair. Everyone sitting up here can handle whatever. And if they don't want to, they don't have to. It's up to them, But my feeling is, I'd like to see it stay the 2 years.
Oh,
It does already.
It already does.
I
mean,
know, but we're questioning it,
But
maybe
it
we
says,
change it.
it says right here in the ordinance that the date and time that the district clerk was immediately after an election. Well, that's every 2 years.
Yeah.
It's not every 4 years. Sorry about that. So it's already in the ordinance that
I
we
know, but I
that
was-
we look at it every 2 years. So there's no need to change anything in that regard. In terms of you mentioned the tradition of moving through the chairs. Like I think I stated and Art stated at the last meeting, I don't want to be, as a board member, I don't want it to be encumbered that the secretary moves to the vice president and the vice president moves to the president. What if something happens? I mean, what if there's something that,
Well, you can
We
always
know.
change it like we did for you.
yeah, and I think keeping
It
it
should be
going
a-
that way is the way to do it. I mean, the tradition will still be there. I I think it's kind of a unwritten attitude that you do move up, and I don't have any problem with that, but I just don't want it to be in an ordinance that says it's automatic that the vice president
Yeah.
become president, or that the secretary automatically become vice president. I don't want to see an ordinance that encumbers us into doing that. That's
I think we had a legitimate concern when you went to your second term, and it was, you know, it was something we had to do, and, but we were able to do it.
Yeah, and there's nothing that prevented us from
No,
doing it.
no. And we
So-
were all in agreement.
Yeah,
I mean, there was no problem.
I sort of felt like Franklin Roosevelt during the Depression or something.
No, I mean, thank God you were there to.
No, you did a good job.
Well, basically, all we need to really change in the ordinance, as far as I'm concerned, is removing this assistant secretary position.
Right.
That's all. Everything else follows with what Arlene said, right?
Yeah.
I mean, how many other organizations have an assistant secretary?
I don't know.
We did that out of mistake by me, because, you know, we had a director that
Right.
was trying to be the president this first year, and we said, what, no. Then we said, why don't we make you the assistant
Just wanna give the
secretary?
title,
You know,
That's what we did.
You know.
Let's be honest.
you know, and, you know, like the city council, because Mansour was gonna be the next, he was mayor pro tem, and then when they changed the voting at the board, he was not the mayor pro tem, he was just a direct, you know, just a council member.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And John Stevens moved up, so it's at the discretion of the vote, you know.
I can see your flexibility.
Yeah.
I think you just nailed it when you said flexibility. It lets us decide what's
It's
appropriate.
already in our policy, so to
Yeah.
speak.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not cast in concrete. I'm flexible.
You were pretty good for chasing a dog down the street.
Are you gonna explain that, or are you just gonna leave that out there?
Well, you should see their dog.
Let me ask Scott a question. Is there any need to keep assistant secretary?
No.
From our end, no, this is just a, okay.
Let me ask you, has an assistant secretary ever had to step in and act? That's what I thought.
Because I've always been.
And when I was secretary, I know I was always available, so.
Yeah.
Okay, so then, direction, you guys know what we're looking for?
Thank you.
All right, let's get to the good stuff. Item 7. Oh, yeah, item 7.
Okay.
So, why you brought the truck here today?
Actually, no, staffing, answer if you have any questions for them, because they're the ones that operate it, so tell them to come in and if you have
Is
any
this the
questions.
bad one?
Yes.
Oh,
So on the screen are our two wastewater cleaning trucks we have in our fleet. The one on the left is the 2013 Freightliner VACCON. That's a 12 cubic yard. On the right is a 2015 Kenworth VACHAul, which is a 6 cubic yard. And as you see in our staff report, our goal is to clean 67% of the wastewater system within the year. And those previous 2 years, in 2016 2017, we achieved that goal. However, that might be more difficult this year, only because we've been having some numerous unanticipated breakdowns on both the vehicles. You can see in your staff report on the 2013 VACCON is that in the past 15 months, we spent over $26,000 on unanticipated repairs on that vehicle. The one on the right, the VACHAul, the real big issue on that one is that the transfer case is not working. And what that does, when we mean by the transfer case, and that's a very important safety issue, because when the vehicle is parked, ready to clean, they transfer it over from the engine to the operating equipment, and it keeps the truck in place. And what it does, it prevents it from rolling forward, and which can seriously injure someone. And so that vehicle's been having a hard time making sure that transfer case is working. It's not costing us a lot of money because the manufacturer is dumbfounded. They've never had this problem before with any other vehicles. The problem is that it's always down, and therefore we can't clean. And that's the issue. And so when we have both vehicles down, we got to rent, or even if we have one vehicle down, we have to rent a vehicle to ensure we keep up with our cleaning schedule. And renting a 6 cubic yard cleaning vehicle like that is costing us about $3,500 a week. So staff is suggesting that we purchase another 12 cubic yard cleaning truck, and then we put the VanCon on reserve. So when one of the trucks go down just for regular PM, preventive maintenance, we can still not lose any cleaning time because we can use the VanCon as a backup. So what we did to find a wastewater cleaning truck, we used a public company called Sourcewell, which is also known as National Joint Powers Alliance. They're a public agency that serves as a member-focused cooperative for over 50,000 government, education, and nonprofit organizations. Basically, what it does, it allows us, in our ordinance, we can piggyback on other public agencies' bids. This is a public agency, so we can piggyback on their bids. So what they do is they go out nationally and solicit bids. Attached is a bid specification is for wastewater and street sweeping vehicles. They advertise it. They notify all the vendors. They notified 30 vendors nationwide. And they received approximately 13 vendors submitted proposals. Then they're reviewed by a committee, and then that committee decides which one meets the criteria, and then they enter a cooperative agreement, which then we can piggyback on. Of those 13 vendors, there's 6 of them that met the requirements for wastewater cleaning trucks. And of those 6, we contacted 4 of them. 4 of them are locally here in Southern California. One of them we did not contact, which was HIVAC Corporation, because they didn't have an office here in Southern California. The nearest one was in Phoenix, so we didn't want to have their trucks come up from Phoenix. The other one we did not bother calling was Municipal Maintenance MME, Municipal Maintenance Equipment. They're the ones that manufactured the VanCon, and because we had so many issues with that, we don't have a lot of trust in getting another VanCon. So we called the other 4 vendors, and you can see on your staff report who we called. They all came to the yard. They gave demonstrations to staff, I believe, and you can ask questions for staff here today. They're all very well vehicles. They will definitely serve the purpose. We submitted specific requirements we want on the equipment, and then we got proposals. And as you can see, Environmental Rental Services, which represents VACOL, is the lowest proposal. However, staff is recommending Haker Equipment Company, or Vactor, which is $25,000. And the significant reason is, remember I told you about the transfer case. When they have to switch over the transfer case, there's a lot of manual procedures they have to do to transfer that over. With a Vactor, all it takes is a push of a button, and it transfers over. And then they can see it on a computer. So it's very simple, and it's very safe to operate. They also have a control panel in front of the truck that can adjust the water pressure. It also shows the flow, the hose footage, right there at their fingertips while they're cleaning. So that's also a nice feature. So we believe that the additional $25,000 is worth spending because we believe it's a safer vehicle than the other ones. So what are your alternatives? So you do have some alternatives, which we identified in the staff report. One of them is we can contract it out, right? We don't believe that's the best decision or best way to go. Why it might be cheaper, it's not going to be very effective, and we know that is because private contractors, let's face it, they're in there to make money. They want to make a profit. So their goal is to get in and out as fast as they can so they can go to the next city to clean. It's what we call blow and go. And they don't take the time to clean the system because they don't have any ownership. Our staff has ownership in the system. They want to take the time. They want to do a good job. They also know the system like the back of their hands. So they know where the sags are. They know where the locations will have accumulated grease. Or maybe they have a lot of roots where a contractor, they're going to have different operators. They're not going to be familiar with the system. And we know that since we went a full house, in-house cleaning crew, it's definitely showing results. In 2017, we had 0 SSO for the first time ever since we've been documenting SSOs. Never happened before because we had our own in-house cleaning crew. The 2 SSOs we had in 2018, one was caused by a contractor neglect. When he was doing improvements at 19th Pump Station, he bored a storm drain through our sewer pipe. And then the second one was, as you know, Eldon, was a 2-inch air release valve. There's no cleanup. So it has nothing to do with our cleaning. And we know that if you look at our previous SSOs, I believe it was from, down here, from 2014, 2014 2016, we had 5 SSOs. When we look back, who last cleaned those SSOs? It was a contractor. Okay, that tells us they're just not putting a lot of effort. They're not doing the job as our staff does. So that's one option, but we don't recommend that. The second option is purchasing a used cleaning truck. If you go to the next slide, please. You might recall our first, this was our first truck we bought in the fleet. We bought this in 2006. It was a used 1992 6 cubic yard wastewater cleaning truck, so it was already 14 years old. And we primarily used it for hot spots. And that was good. That was a good purpose. It was just for the hot spots. At the time, we had 100 hot spots. We used that, and then the contractor would clean the entire system. But just as with any older vehicles, we ran into a lot of problems. We kept this vehicle for when it was 21 years old, and that's very unusual. Usually you want to keep your vehicles, especially heavy-duty vehicles, between 10 to 12 years. So can we get one for cheaper? We bought this for about $94,000 in 2006. We spent over $62,000 on repairs, unanticipated repairs in this vehicle. So you're going to still have a lot of breakdowns on a used car. So again, we don't recommend that. So we recommend, again, the staff's recommending purchasing the factory truck from Haker at $411,365. You currently have $1.4 million in your fixed asset replacement fund, so there's plenty of money in the fund to purchase this vehicle. Another benefit is that Haker says that if we issue a purchase order for this vehicle this month, we can receive it by May. If you go with a backhaul, it's going to be more like October and November, so we can get it sooner, which is another nice benefit. So that concludes my presentation. Staff is here if you have any specific questions on how it operates and what they recommend, but happy to answer any questions from now.
Does the $411,385 include the one option with the button you just press?
Yes, correct.
That includes
Yes.
that. Is that an option?
No, it comes with the vehicle.
I mean, all
Yeah.
the vehicles have that.
It comes with the Haker, or it comes with
that's
the
what I
factory,
mean.
yes.
That's what I mean.
Yes.
So all of the ones that they sell have that option.
I don't know if they're all the one they sell. I don't know what the other ones. If you,
No, I think that's a great idea.
yeah, that brochure is in your staff report. I don't know if it's all of them, but the one we're looking at definitely has it.
Did they bring that truck out to the yard for you guys to try? Yes. How did it work?
Joel, do me a favor and go up on the podium. So this is just for the members of the public. This is Joel Ortiz. He's our senior operator, and he drives the VACON.
I've been doing sewers for 22 years, and that truck in particular is a 2100, but it's all from Haker. And we had issues with that one, but this particular one, the 2100i, is operator friendly. When I say operator friendly, it has a new level of simplicity that with one touch you will activate your cleaning equipment. It will transfer your power to the water pump. And the one that we have right now, it has a lot of steps. Not only that's not safe. When I used to work in National Plant, we had a truck like that, and unfortunately, one of my coworkers got killed because of the transfer case didn't shift it properly when he shifted the PTO. And I don't recommend that because it's not safe. You really need to know what you're doing, what to look for. I think I showed Jesse and Brandon, and when we use that type of equipment, what to look for, and because you have 80,000 pounds in front of you, when you come out of that truck, you're taking the accelerator with you, and when you think you're ready to start cleaning, you press the accelerator, you crank it up, and the truck takes off. So there's no way you're gonna survive that. And the new truck from Haker, it has also a transfer case, Scott, and a PTO. But this truck, the technology that they put in this vehicle is more simple. There's no 100 steps to it. There's only one touch button, and that activates your cleaning equipment. And not only that, it shows you and shows on a screen when it's shifting properly. If it doesn't shift properly, the computer will not let you do anything in the truck. You can come out and open your water, or it will not work until you go back and reset the. So to me, that's operator friendly. Not only that, the black holes right there, it has the telescope comes out, which is the metal tubes. It will come out 10 feet, and the black holes will go down 15 feet. So that makes it more operator friendly again when it comes to connect pipes, especially in traffic. You know, sometimes we got to close one lane, and we got to come out, and we have the pipes on the side of our trucks like that. So that's not really safe. You know, we still got to go back and get a pipe, but if I can eliminate going 3 times and going back there and just going once, I think we're safe. That's why I recommend the Haker 2100. It's more operator friendly. I think our guys, their life is more value than equipment. We can replace the truck, but not one of our guys.
Is this an older picture?
Yes, that's the 2100. When
We don't have that truck anymore.
no.
You haven't changed a bit. You still look the same.
That was kind of older.
Yeah, Joel, be efficient.
What kind of warranty do this comes with it? Is this a 1 year?
It's usually warranty. If you want to extend it, it's going to cost you more. Just a
How
1
much
year.
does it cost?
I don't know. I don't want to look into it.
I'd like to
Well, I
see.
suggest we find that out.
Sure.
And
Yeah.
storage, we're going to keep all the trucks, the 3. We'll end up with 3 trucks. Is that the idea?
Yeah, that's the beauty of we extended the yard. We have the space to do it.
I
So,
mean, that yard will accommodate
yes,
something that big with
Yes.
3 of them?
yes, we can.
One is going to stay inside the garage, which I believe it will be the 2100, and the back kind it will stay out in the back hole.
Well, go ahead, Jim.
Have we talked to any of our comrades around the county, like Midway City, to find out what they're using and you know, maybe possibly another vendor that we don't know about, or?
I know these are all the vendors. 'Cause we know these are all the vendors in the Southern California. I believe OCSD uses Vector. I'm just saying they use Vector.
Everybody in the industry, they use 2100s.
I just want to add to the comments that we all received, I think, a comment from Director Uten, who couldn't be present, and he said he's all in favor of it, so that we know that.
You know, he did mention talking to OCSD because they have spare units.
Yeah.
You know what? It's like I rarely buy used cars myself because I don't want to buy someone else's problem. This is a new truck. Will be the first. It'll be ours. The one question I had under your environmental review, you talked about this is a diesel, right? And we're under AQMD. We're exempt from having to go to CNG trucks. What, I should know this answer, but I don't. If we buy this thing in a year and a half, 2 years down the road, AQMD says, you know what? Never mind. We want everybody to have CNG trucks. Are we going to be grandfathered in?
Yeah, they'd grandfather you in. They wouldn't. So if we bought it and they said we're having new rules, then we'd have to buy it when we buy our next truck. Then it'll be a CNG. But you know, CNG is another $100,000. You know, and then we'd have to go to Newport Beach to fuel it.
Maybe we could get an outlet from CR&R.
I haven't heard any word that AQMD is going to lower their threshold to less than 15.
You know, you guys do this every day. Could a CNG truck? I mean, could a CNG power a truck like this?
Yeah, Huntington Beach has them. And some of these trucks, some of these cities do have them because they're under the AQMD regulars. It depends who you call. I've heard some say they don't work well. Some say they do. Yeah. You know, it's just a hit and miss. It's just kind of like the trucks we're using now. You know, it's kind of the roll of the dice.
The new trucks right now, there's a new standard. this particular truck, because it's old, they don't have a. The new trucks that we have, we use some kind of a liquid to reduce the emissions on the. I think that's going to be
Well, as a green diesel, Scott had put that in the report.
Correct.
As a green diesel, you're going to reduce the emissions
But- and it's got particulate traps.
30% anyway.
It has particulate traps in it, which is a requirement by CARB, California Air Resource Board. So it's fully compliable.
For $411,000, did they quote you any guarantee at all? Or is it just, if you want to spend another $100,000, it's this?
I think it's just
Must be some kind of warranty with it.
yeah. I think with their standard, it's a 1-year warranty. But if we'll double check if we want to extend it, how much that's going to cost, and we'll bring that back to you on the 20th.
It seemed like it'd be they'd have some kind of guarantee on the powertrain, like they do with a car. I mean, I could see putting a 1-year guarantee on the equipment, the installed equipment, but the actual, it seems like the money we're spending isn't on the equipment, it's on the truck, right?
Correct. And understand it. Like the VACOL, it's not breaking the bank. The issue is that it's down all the time, so we can't clean. So that's the issue. We want to make sure we have a reliable truck that we can clean.
Yeah, but now's an opportunity to optimize minimize our exposure.
Sure. Yeah. We'll look into that.
Yeah, you
we
can
need
find
to
that
have a
price out.
truck for sure that is going to run. Or at least a spare that we know that is going to run.
Well, the two things the most important thing to me is, your friend when you worked at National Planet, I hear stuff like that. I don't want to have anything to do with a piece of equipment that's going to hurt one of you guys. And the fact that it makes your job easier, that whole thing with the transfer case and locking it in. I've had vehicles that transfer cases. I know what that's all.
4x4 is.
I don't want that to ever happen to one of our people. So, I think I'm convinced. And again, with Bob's suggestion about checking with OCSD, I don't mind you doing that. But I'm not going
OCSD is not using the small equipment.
That's what Bob.
They've acquired or gotten rid of all of their small pipe sewer
Okay.
pipe.
Good.
Yeah, you mentioned that Huntington Beach has that natural gas truck. Have we ever checked that out? See what the operators of that thing?
No, we didn't, because again, it's $100,000 more. We'd have to fuel at Newport Beach because you'll need a CNG station. So because we're not even close to that rule, we didn't even consider it.
I was just thinking if we could have one of our operators check it out just to see how they think about it. I mean, that's the only thought I had. I like the idea of purchasing the truck. That's no problem. It just.
So saying if we turned around and approved it at the next board meeting, then by May we'd receive it, right?
Yeah, it's real simple. All we do is issue a purchase order, we'll put the specs in the purchase order, and boom, they start manufacturing the vehicle. It's that quick.
You mentioned the CNG fill up of does Newport Beach do that?
Yeah, Newport. Well, it's an agreement with the CNG company. It's near their yard, not too far from our yard.
15th Street? Or?
Yeah, I forget what it is, but they have a CNG fueling station. That's the closest one. I don't think the city of Costa Mesa has one.
No, I think Orange County, or Orange Waste, Orange County Sand has one.
But yeah, our closest would be we
Newport
would
Beach.
use Newport Beach.
I'm just curious, because you think that's probably going to happen in the future, that the state's going to require that, knowing California,
Eventually it will. So if we decide to buy this thing, how big of a ribbon and bow do you need to put on it for these guys?
Be a big one.
You guys are pretty convinced this is the way to go.
Yes.
We'll take this to the CAC tomorrow night and get their comments, and then if you're okay, we'll bring it back on the 20th.
Sounds great.
Is it going to be on the next board meeting then?
Yes, 20th.
All right.
All right.
Thanks,
Thank you.
guys.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Very much. Have a great day.
Yeah, you too.
You too.
Okay. That takes us to oral communications. I did have one CR&R question, or I live on California Street, the end of California Street, and I don't know all the cross streets that head down California as I go home. There's Minnesota, there's Iowa. I don't remember which one it is. There's a house for sale on the corner of California. I almost want to think it's Idaho, but I'm not sure. So apparently they cleaned out the house. They put their bin out last Thursday or last week. It's still sitting there, but it's got a bunch of construction debris, like windows and stuff like that. My question is, when the operator gets there and sees all this stuff, they're not going to get out of the truck and pick that stuff up. We don't want them to do that. Do they leave any kind of notice, or do they just pass it by? Yeah.
So are you referring to a 3-yard like commercial bin or a cleanup bin?
It's our regular bins.
Okay, regular bin. So if there's concrete in there, or even like other hazardous waste, things of that sort, they won't pick it up,
Yeah.
and they'll leave a tag on there.
Okay.
And yeah,
I just didn't notice it, and it's sitting on in front of their driveway, or where they would normally have the bin picked up. And I noticed there's some windows, and there's some other. It's not construction debris; it's stuff you'd clean out of your house when you're moving.
Mm-hmm.
So they might have left a tag. Your guys might have left a tag there, but the house is vacant.
what's the address? I'll stop by and take a look.
California and
and-
Idaho. I think it's Idaho.
Idaho.
I'll
Okay.
tell you what. If you go down California Street,
Uh-huh.
past the grammar school, it's on going west. It's on the left. There's a big real estate sign in the yard, Redfin Real Estate.
Okay.
I guess the process is what my question was. We're going to leave it. I would assume if they can't pick the bin up, they leave a tag, right, as to why they can't.
I know, but we
Correct,
still need
yeah.
to pick up the bin, because the residents are gone.
Well, they can't pick up the bin because all
I know.
the stuff is stacked up against it.
That's what I'm saying. We still have to get that taken
Yeah,
care of.
yeah.
That's what I'm saying. If you could take care of that for us.
Yeah, we should have the contact information because they put in the order. They'll eventually have to pay for that bill.
Yeah.
So there should be some follow-up on information for us.
You know,
Well, let me ask-
if you don't mind
Yeah.
cruising by there and having a look. It was there this morning when I went to work, so.
No, I'll stop by. So I'll go down to California. You said past the grammar school.
Yeah, if you come off of Geisler to California and it winds back, it's about halfway down on the left-hand side. And I'm pretty sure it's Idaho and California.
Mike, is it a 3-yard bin, or is it one of our trash cans?
It's our trash
It's
can.
a trash can. That's what he's saying.
What's a trash cart?
It's a trash cart.
Trash
So
cart.
Oh, it's
That's
a
what I
cart.
thought.
Oh.
Not a bin.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm sorry. No, it's a trash cart. Our
Trash cart.
carts.
Okay. Yeah. So they should have left a tag, but I'll take a look. But yeah.
take a look, because
Yeah.
we don't want to leave it out there for an
No.
extended period of time,
It's been there since Thursday. So. Anything
Okay.
else?
Thank you.
I just wanted to comment that I'm so happy to see us do this sandbag thing. I think that's a plus for us, for, the community period, for people to know. I mean, maybe some of our places, our streets are great, but some aren't, so, and it's not our fault. So, and the other thing is on the solar. I'm so pleased about that now it's cranked up, and next month we'll have a report on it.
How we doing on the flags, by the way? You told me we had a whole bunch of flags in the.
Yeah, it's doing very well, but I think the only issue we're having, the Boy Scouts are having a hard time getting over here to pick them up. We're calling them a lot, and they just, I don't think they still haven't been here yet. I don't think.
Yes, they came by after the lights came back on.
Awesome.
So they take them to their burn ceremony or whatever they do.
There was 35.
Is that
35 flags.
That's real good.
35?
That's good.
It's kind of a cool. Is Dan Worthington aware of all? Okay.
Does he come over often?
More often than most.
No, he's got great intentions.
Well, he's the Energizer Bunny. Last question is, I know I received in the mail yesterday my little certificate from the Registrar of Voters. I don't know if you got yours in the mail yesterday.
No.
You don't need a copy of that, do you?
I should be receiving something from the ROV. I haven't received anything yet.
Okay, I'll email you a copy of that thing today. It's a cute little certificate.
Really?
When do we get our money back?
For what?
For what?
The,
For your campaign.
Well, when you do your filing fee, it costs us
But you know what? Somebody else had gone in there too.
Well,
It
they.
was just-
That's
they-
why you should get
they-
money back.
That's why we get money, but they established the amount based on 2 candidates. And then since we had 4 candidates, we're supposed to get part of that money back.
It takes a couple of months.
I'm sure it'll take a long time, so. Okay, anything else?
See you guys
Well, we do
Thursday.
have an event coming up here, don't we?
Yeah, I'll see you Thursday night.
Yeah.
Can I just bring my check that night?
Yeah.
No, you need your money paid right now.
I got it in the car if you need it.
You bring yours too.
All right, Scott, can I give you a check?
See? Okay, I'm not gonna pick on
I
him
don't want Mother Arlene coming after me. All right, then we're adjourned till the board meeting next Thursday. Thank you all.
anymore.